Hey, what's up everyone? Happy New Year, and thank you guys for joining me again for another video. So this is going to be the first in a series that I want to do on language learning, since it's been something that I've had a lot of fun with doing over the past year or so. And I figured since so many of you guys are probably trying to learn a new language for the new year, I'm hoping that this series will help you guys out with your language learning journey. And in this first episode, I wanted to start off by talking about Rosetta Stone and sort of go over the things that I like about it, things that I dislike about it, along with my recommendations and final thoughts. So starting off, I've been using it consistently, probably since about June or July of last year, and I've made quite a bit of progress with it. So I know that a lot of people have a lot of mixed opinions and a lot of strong opinions on the software. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. But in my opinion, I think that it can be a pretty solid learning tool if used in the proper manner. Rosetta Stone is an immersion-based program, which I think intimidates a lot of people because there's really no English whatsoever. Everything from day one is going to be in your target language, and that really brings me to my first point, which is that if you're trying to learn a language through Rosetta Stone, especially if your target language does not use a writing system that you're familiar with, I would say go to Amazon or elsewhere and buy some books so that way you can teach yourself the alphabet for that particular language. So that way you can actually get immersed even more so right from day one with Rosetta Stone. Now in Rosetta Stone, you can of course switch the text parts to be transliterated into English, so that way you don't really need to read the language. But in my opinion, if you're going to learn a language, you probably should learn it in the way that the natives learn it, which is without having to rely on a writing system that you're comfortable with just because you don't want to go through learning a new language writing system. But regardless, you do have that option, so that is something that is nice. But for me, I've been learning Russian primarily through Rosetta Stone, and prior to learning with Rosetta Stone, I've been using several books from Teach Yourself, as well as other books on handwriting to learn all of the Cyrillic alphabet, and also I've been using audiobooks and other things like that. So when I started with Rosetta Stone, I already felt pretty natural reading Russian and interacting with the program. But again, regardless of where you start, you're going to be able to get caught up, I think, in a pretty quick amount of time. But regardless of where you start and where you want to end up, I think that it's important to set reasonable expectations for yourself. You know, I think that a lot of people have the expectation that they're going to be able to pick up a new language just super easily and super quickly, especially if you're somebody who has a college degree and maybe even you have a doctorate or something like that. You may be tempted to get extremely frustrated by your perception of how slowly you're progressing. This is a fallacy that I think a lot of us fall into because we think that we should be able to advance so quickly because we have such proficiency in other areas of our lives that we think that that should pretty much translate into language learning, but that is not exactly necessarily true. And also it can be very detrimental to your progress. So if you really want to learn a language, just give yourself some slack, give yourself some leeway, and treat it like an adventure. If you go into the process with the knowledge that it will take some time and that you're going to make lots of mistakes, but with the determination that you will learn from those mistakes and improve over time, then I think you're going to succeed. And eventually you will become proficient enough, like with the English language, to start creating and reading at an intermediate level. But again, it generally is going to take quite a bit of time, and depending on how fast you learn, it may take a year, it may take a couple of years. And so even if you aren't proficient in your target language in 6 months, that's okay. If you apply yourself and you really stick with it, you should be able to speak generally with people in that target language within only just a few short weeks. Your vocabulary, though, of course, is going to be pretty limited, and at least in Russian, you're probably going to have to say «Извините, не знаю, что вы говорите, я новый изучаю русский язык», which basically means, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're saying, I'm new to learning Russian. But that's okay, and eventually you will get better. One of the things that I think is really fun about learning a new language is that you'll begin to find people who speak your target language as you go around and you're just living your life. And eventually you'll be able to start picking out little pieces of the language that are familiar that you can grab onto and say, okay, hey, I know what that means. And that's something that's been a really huge help for me in building my confidence, because when you start hearing things in context and you actually understand what people are saying, you can kind of feel like, hey, you know, my time that I spent learning this language isn't for nothing. And with the introduction out of the way, I wanted to start off by talking about how I would suggest you get started with Rosetta Stone. So they offer a lot of plans that you can go with. You can go the subscription route if you choose, or you can purchase individual languages, or you can even get a catch-all license, which in my opinion is probably the best way of going about it. And that's because learning languages, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, takes a long time, so you'll end up spending a lot of money in the long run, I think, if you go with the subscription route rather than just buying all of the languages outright for one price. And in my opinion, the price is pretty low for being compared to the monthly subscription option. So I think if you have the funds, it's probably better and more sensible and more economical in the long run to just buy it outright. And the next thing is that even if you're only interested in learning a singular language, I would still recommend against buying just the single language packages like Spanish or French or whatever, since the difference between the single language price and the lifetime subscription, which has all of the languages, isn't really all that massive. Finally, I would wait for a good sale to buy the lifetime subscription, since the entry point for you is going to be even lower. For me, I purchased my lifetime subscription through Amazon, and so I'll be leaving a link to that down in the description below for you guys to check out if you're so inclined. And by the way, if you do use that link to purchase, it will help out the channel a little bit, so I really do appreciate that. But with your subscription sorted out, the next thing that you'll want to do is to download the app either on an iPad, Mac, a phone, or really any other connected device. Since they have apps for all of the major platforms, you can pretty much get started from anywhere. And I'll be showing you guys how to use the app on the iPad for a quick lesson so that we can see how it works and what you can expect from it. But before we do that, I'll quickly explain that there are a couple of categories of lessons in Rosetta Stone. So number one is going to be your core lessons. Those are going to be teaching you new vocabulary in different contexts and how to speak. The next category is going to be pronunciation, which is basically a category that you'll learn how to properly enunciate the new words and phrases that you're learning. Number three is going to be grammar. So you're going to be having the software highlight certain parts of words in phrases. The next is going to be reading, which basically just focuses obviously on your ability to read and comprehend the language without hearing it. And number five is going to be milestones. So these are essentially your tests, which you are going to be tested on your ability to converse in the target language by being dropped into a scenario that they choose for you. So once you have your license and your account set up for Rosetta Stone, just go ahead and click the app. All right, so once you get started and you have the app open, you can see that we have a lot of languages to choose from. So you have Spanish, Latin American, English American, French, Italian, German, Arabic, Chinese, Dutch, English, British, Filipino, Greek, Hebrew, Hindi, Irish, Japanese, Korean, Persian, Polish, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, which is the sort of Spain version. You also have Swedish, Turkish, and Vietnamese. So you have quite a few different languages that you can choose from. Again, if you go with one of the plans or with the all-inclusive one-time payment subscription for all of the languages. So again, like I said, I would really personally go with this since you get a lot for your money. But with that being said, let's go into Russian, since that's what I've been working through most. And we'll see here that we have a lot of progress on each of these little categories here. So we'll go ahead to where I'm at right now, which is going to be Unit 6, Past and Future. So right here, you can kind of see how things are laid out. So right now we're in Lesson 1 inside of this Unit 6, and we have a couple of things. So we have this 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. These are all of our core lessons. So these are going to be the ones that teach you all of the vocabulary and everything else that you need to know. Then down here, we have the exercises which follow the core lessons. So you have pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, listening and reading. And so these are all things that kind of recall what you learned in the core lessons. If you do want to go ahead and restart a lesson, so right now I have this 100% complete in terms of getting everything correct, but let's say that I want to go back and review. It's very easy. You just click right up here on reset, and this will allow you to reset your progress and go over, or you can just go here to revisit lesson, and that'll keep your progress, but it'll allow you to go through and redo the lesson from the start. So here we're getting introduced to the past tense because we've already been introduced to the present tense for pretty much the entirety of this program. So right here we see that this girl is eating right now, so она ест.
Она ест.
Then here we see that this boy finished eating his food, so this is going to be он ел.
Он ел.
So this is kind of how they introduce you to new words or new concepts. And so here we can see that this girl is buying some books, and now that she's walking out of the store, she has bought the books, so now we have to find the past tense version. So it's going to be она купила книгу.
Она купила книгу.
And then right here we can see that this guy is playing soccer, so он играет в футбол.
Он играет в футбол.
And then here he's finished playing football, so then
Он играл в футбол.
Я продал газету.
so you can see here this guy just finished selling a newspaper, and so it's я продал газету.
Она собирается купить одежду.
Она собирается купить одежду.
Она покупает одежду.
Она покупает одежду.
Она купила одежду.
Она купила одежду. And so here we actually have some speaking parts, so you have to repeat what you hear. And that is a really cool thing. It tries to analyze your accent as well as what you're saying and give you a score based on that. So if you do really well and you're adhering to the sort of sounds that are from the language that you're trying to learn, then you'll get maximum points. And if you're really far off, then you'll get minimum points. So sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't, but it's, like I said, a really nice thing that is built into Rosetta Stone. So here we get some parts where we just hear the audio and we don't actually get to read anything. So this is testing if you're sort of hearing things properly and if you can recognize the words without actually seeing them.
Я ела шоколад. Я собираюсь есть шоколад.
And then here, this part of the lesson, we have a multiple choice and we have to basically figure out what is happening in each of these slides, and each of them in a row are related. So that's pretty much how we can kind of go about figuring out what we need to say and in what area. So right now this guy is getting ready to swim. So it's он собирается плавать.
Он собирается плавать.
And then here he's actually swimming, so он плавает.
Он плавает.
And then here he just finished, so он плавал.
Он плавал.
Then here we have a girl and she is talking in the first person, so it's я собираюсь плавать.
Я собираюсь плавать.
And then here she's currently swimming, so я плаваю.
Я плаваю.
And then here we can see that she just finished, so я плавала.
Я плавала.
Она собирается плавать. Она плавает. Она плавала.
Я собираюсь плавать. Я плаваю. Я плавала.
Ты плавала?
Ты плавала.
Нет, я не плавала. Я бегала.
Нет, я не плавала. Я бегала.
Ты купила книгу?
Ты купила книгу.
Нет, я не купила книгу. Я купила газету.
Нет, я не купила книгу. Я купила газету.
Ты собираешься читать эту книгу?
Да, я собираюсь ее читать.
Что ты делаешь?
Я читаю книгу.
Ты читал эту книгу?
Да, я ее читал.
And so now we can see that we finished our first lesson. And so that's pretty much how Rosetta Stone works. You basically just go through and you work on each of these lessons. You get introduced to some new words and then you get to use them in context, and you even get to actually pronounce them and sort of test your pronunciation in real world context, which is a pretty cool thing. Like I said, I think that it's pretty nice that it's so well structured and it's very easily laid out. It's also nice that you can go back and you can review things as you need. You can even use this offline, but you need to basically download everything first before you do that. So that is pretty much that. As I had mentioned too, you can also manage how you sort of see things in your lessons. So if we go here, you can go for lesson settings and you can see what the learning focus is. You can choose to be more focused on reading and writing, speaking and listening, or just having everything or extending everything. Here we can also turn on learning letters, characters, and sounds. If you don't know the language already, this could be something that may help you. And for here, if you are having a little bit of difficulty with your speech recognition, you can change the sensitivity. So right now I have it on kind of medium-ish. If you have it more towards hard, I think it's going to be more critical of your accent and more critical of how you say things. And then here we also have your voice type, so you definitely want to choose what your voice type is, so that way its algorithm can kind of calibrate based on the sound of your voice and the tone. All right, and then the last thing that I wanted to show you is that if you click down here on extended learning, you're going to be given two options. So you have stories right here. So inside of here, you can look at all of the different units. So these sort of follow the units that you're going to be doing just with the regular Rosetta Stone. And so if we go here to Unit 1, you can download one of these stories, and then you can open it up and you can see a little short story which should be able to be read by you at the level that you just completed. And you can also listen to it, and you can even record yourself speaking and then get feedback on how you did. So that is a pretty cool feature in terms of getting more experience actually using the language and working with it. So that is one thing that you can do. And then you also have an audio companion here. So if you want to listen to some of the audio for lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4 within unit 1 or any of the other units, you can hear that. And you can also download these as well. So that'll just give you a little bit more practice and other things like that, so you can get better at your language faster. All right, so now you see how the app is used, and in summary, I think that this is a pretty solid option for those of you guys who are really motivated to learn a new language. In my opinion, motivation is really key here, since with Rosetta Stone, you're going to be fully immersed in the language, and you're going to have to experience moments sometimes where you have no idea what's going on. So the learning curve at times can be a little bit high. But I promise if you do stick with it and perhaps use some external resources, you will make progress. And I also wanted to say that if you're having difficulty with understanding exactly what the pictures are trying to convey, it's okay to go to Google Translate or some other resource like that to make sure that you're understanding these things properly. This is not school where you're being graded and scrutinized on your ability to remember things or to understand things. You can go at your own pace, you can learn in your own way, but really the main thing is just that you want to be making progress. And that said though, do remember to challenge yourself. Don't just go to a translator first without trying to figure out the meaning for yourself. If you never put yourself in a situation where you have to recall what you've been taught, even if it's a little bit stressful for you, you're never going to make progress. And I think that that's really one of the absolute best parts of Rosetta Stone, is the fact that you have these speaking parts and other things like that that are really going to test you in terms of, can you remember what you learned and can you apply that knowledge to a new situation? And unfortunately, it's left out for a lot of apps in language learning, which is a really tragic thing in my opinion, since when you read and hear the language, you kind of get a sense that you know the language, but then you go to speak it and you can't really say the words because maybe your mouth isn't used to moving in that particular way in that particular language. And so it's like, even though you know the language from a colloquial standpoint, you can't actually use it in a practical way. And so I think that's really an unfortunate thing that a lot of language apps really miss. So I really love that Rosetta Stone actually gets you to open your mouth. Because again, really, we connect with other people through spoken word, not so much through written word. And even though I definitely think that speaking parts are not perfect in Rosetta Stone, they are helpful. And at least for myself, I found that even with some words in Russian, like Stabilization, I'm now able to actually speak those words without stumbling over myself like I was originally. And finally, I wanted to end by saying that if you can, also writing in your target language alongside the English and using highlighting to highlight words that you're learning can be another really, really effective supplement to your learning with Rosetta Stone or really any other app that you go with. With all that being said though, for between $150 and $190 for all languages forever on any device that you want, I think Rosetta Stone is a pretty good value, and even though I only showed one of the actual lessons, Rosetta Stone also has additional reading resources for you, which is a pretty cool thing that you can check out, and it can really help to expand your knowledge, your vocabulary, and improve your efficiency and fluency with the language. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys are looking to get started learning a language in the new year, I hope that this video series will help you out and encourage you to make progress. And I also hope that through this video, you're encouraged that it's okay if you think you sound a little bit silly or a little bit stupid because your pronunciation is not so good at first. Just remember that people will make fun of you while you're trying to better yourself by learning a new language, and that's because they know that they don't have the determination and the tenacity to do it for themselves. So rather than encourage you along your way, most people are just going to make fun of you because they feel that it'll make them feel better because they don't have any action. And so don't pay them any mind and just enjoy the process. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please remember to drop a like, leave a comment down below. What languages are you learning? What languages do you want to learn? Have you tried Rosetta Stone? Have you tried another app? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Would love to hear more from you guys. And also make sure that you subscribe to catch some more content, and I will see you guys later.